And with all that's going on in Washington, we want to bring in Loyola Marymount professor Michael Genovese to get his perspective.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Professor.
My
Sure,
pleasure.
a lot to talk about.
But first, can I get in on the Valentine's gifts that you were showing before? Because my wife, to live with me, you have to be a saint. And so let's divide them up afterwards, okay?
We'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the travel ban, because that, of course, I should say the travel ban regarding the visas from mostly immigrants from these Muslim-majority countries. On Thursday, the court struck it down. So what does this mean now, and what is his next step? He said that he's going to issue a new one on Monday with less legal issues.
It was a blistering rebuke, made all the more stinging by the fact that it was both unanimous and bipartisan. But it was one of those cases where if you listen to it, and there are a lot of people who study this, at some point in the discussion, one of the judges said to the government lawyer, "Is the president saying his acts are non-reviewable?" And the lawyer said yes. We knew that they were toast at that point, because we argued that out in the W. Bush administration, and the courts repeatedly said, no, your actions are reviewable. And so it was a stinging rebuke. The question is this a sign of fights to come, or will they learn the lesson from this case?
Exactly, yeah, very interesting.
And it has just been almost a month since President Trump took the oath of office. Would you say he's hit the ground running or stumbling?
Yes.
Both.
He hit the ground running with a flurry of executive orders. They were more style than substance, because most of the orders require Congress to authorize spending of funds. Only Congress can do that. And so he's trying to get the process started. The big problem, though, is the stumbling, and that there were a couple of very big rookie mistakes where they shot themselves in the foot. And the rollout of the ban was the most obvious one, and it caused an incredible amount of criticism. It looked amateurish. It's a big difference between running a family business and running a branch of government.
Well, in his cabinet and in his advisors, who do you think is really running the show here? Who is the power behind the throne?
Well, we've talked before about this, and the inside scoop was that Jared Kushner, the son-in-law, would be the power behind the throne. Thus far, that has not been the case. It's been Steve Bannon 100%. His fingerprints were all over the inaugural address, the carnage address as it was called, all over the ban rollout. And if you have any doubts about who's pulling the strings, in a move that was very questionable and probably unwise, the president appointed Bannon to the National Security Council. That's unprecedented, and it probably doesn't make a lot of political sense either.
But how do you think that the opposition for Trump has really formed? Do you think it's the Democrats that are leading this opposition?
No, I think there are four likely sources of friction. One is the bureaucracy, and they got stung by the rollout. They don't want to be made to look like fools, and so if they turn on the president, all kinds of trouble could ensue. Second is the Democrats. They've been pretty tepid, and I think they're going to be nothing more than a minor irritant to President Trump. The third will be, do the people take it to the streets? You saw the Women's March, you saw the protests on the ban. If that continues, Trump's in trouble. But he's really in trouble if he loses the Republican establishment. And that's why he's been engaged in a kind of very public fight with John McCain. If he loses McCain and he loses the Republican establishment, he could be lost. You've read your Julius Caesar from Shakespeare in high school. John McCain might very well be the Brutus to Trump's Caesar. And that's the biggest fear right now that the Republicans have.
And how has he responded? You know, so much about a leader is how he responds to certain things. How has he responded thus far, and does he need to change his tune going forward? He's
responding as president as he did as a candidate. He's thin-skinned. He's personalized everything. He reacts very harshly and very quickly. You know, the 4 a.m. tweet should be stopped, and he keeps on doing it. The problem is he's not yet been tested under fire. Right. British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan was once asked, what's the biggest thing a prime minister fears? And his response was, events, young man, events. Presidents have to react to events, to things that are thrown on their desk, sometimes to crises. If Trump responds in a way that personalizes problems, instead of saying what's in the national interest, then he will respond in a way that is smaller and more petty rather than larger and more in the national interest.
Professor Genovese, thanks so much for coming in and giving us your insight. We always appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.